What's up, mi gente? I'm Juan Ayala from Latin Babblers Show, and you're listening to Latin Arte, where we bring you exclusive interviews with rising Latin stars of the world. ¿Listos? Vamos! Today's guest is an actor you know and love from the Apple TV Plus series Acapulco. It's Memo himself, Fernando Carsa. Fernando, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. What a lovely introduction.
So, season 2 of Acapulco is finally here. We've talked many times before already, but it's way too long between seasons. I feel like seasons aren't long enough, but it's just such a wonderful feel-good show that it's like you just want more. Just, can it be like a soap opera where there's like, 50 episodes per season instead of 10?
I mean, as someone who wants to make a living and who loves the art and who loves the show and who loves that the audience is loving it as much as we are loving it. Yes, I wish we could do 100 seasons. I mean, 100 episodes. And why not 100 season two? But 100 episodes every season. I think it's a story worth telling and that audiences seem to love and enjoy a lot. So why not give it a little more of time on screen?
Yeah, it's nice to see a show where COVID has not been written into the story
Oh
because
my
we
God.
watch TV for escapism. So when you go into a show and half of the people on screen are wearing masks or they're dealing with some kind of tragedy, it's like, can we just laugh for a little bit? Can we just go somewhere sunny?
I like to say that specifically the second season within its storyline, there's a lot of healing. And I've been saying this a lot that I really hope this season helps people heal because of what we've been through so much. And I do think it's the perfect show to do so because of the topics that it touches upon and the storyline that it has and how it's representing people, and how much of a universal story it is. So I'm there with you. I really hope that the show continues to provide that joy for people.
Mm. And for those who don't know, so you, the cast, and the entire crew live together for months at a time on the actual resort where the show is being filmed. So besides like the premiere or, an awards event here or there, you hadn't really seen the cast like in between filming. So did it feel like summer camp almost when you all reunited for season 2? It's like, oh my God, all my friends are here.
It's honestly what's really interesting is yes, it does feel like summer camp, but which I'm just learning is not that often that cast members keep up with each other, especially when they're doing a show like this where they work long hours and long days and multiple months at a time. But we still have our group chat, like we're constantly in communication. We probably talk to each other every single day. So of course, it was nice to finally see each other in person again. And now that we know each other, there's no more shyness or fear, of like socializing with each other. But yes, it did feel like summer camp. But to be completely honest with you, I literally just, and I could pull up my phone and prove you that it's true. I literally just sent something to our group chat. So we're constantly in communication. We really
Yeah.
are a family. So yeah, I mean, and now we're doing this thing where we're traveling to see each other. So like I've been to Mexico twice since we finished the second season, and some of my cast members have been to the US like 2 or 3 times too. So we're constantly seeing each other still.
Mm.
We can't get enough apparently.
Yeah. And I'm curious with season 2 picks up right where season 1 leaves off. Not much time passed in between the story itself, but in reality, how much time passed between the filming of each season?
Hmm. So let's see. We finished filming the first season around June 23rd, and we started filming the second season on March, end of March of 2022. So like, what is that? 8 months, 9 months?
Oh, so it was a quick turnaround for season
It
1
was
then.
a
Like,
quick turnaround. It just felt super long because it took no shade, but it took Apple forever to announce the second season and whatnot. So we already knew, that the show was picked up and whatnot, but we hadn't told the audiences until we were filming the second season. So I feel like for audiences, it felt like a much longer time. But for us, we did this first season, then we did press, and then within a few months, we were back into the Pink Hotel filming. So the turnaround was quite quick. Just I feel like from the audience perspective, it felt a bit longer.
yeah. Yeah, it usually is, especially for shows on streaming that will drop like multiple episodes at a time. And if it's a shorter season, I feel like a lot of time, at least knowing as many actors as I've interviewed, you know, you'll rap on something and it doesn't air for a year or something like
Yeah.
that. But for you guys, it seemed pretty quick between like wrapping season one and then it started airing a few months like later. Correct? Is that the
Yeah, it's
timeline
it's,
right
it's
there?
pretty
Okay.
it's pretty quick. I mean, usually, I mean, and this was happening since the first season. We start doing post-production work while we're working. I mean, still filming. Like we
Got
start
it.
doing
Yeah.
ADRs. I mean, by the time that we wrapped, we had seen the first and third episode this season. Like
Okay.
they showed
Yeah.
it to us on like a little wrap party. So the turnarounds are quick in Acapulco, you know, which
Yeah.
we do love because it allows us to stay connected and involved in the story and see the whole process. I mean, I literally my last dubbing session into dubbing the show into Spanish was literally a week before the first two episodes came out.
Mm,
So we're still in contact with the show even if we have wrapped.
got it.
Just
Yeah. And what would you say is like the biggest difference you felt going into season two? Like, so like day one of season two, how different did you feel compared to day one of season one? So like
well,
absolute day one to the first day back.
day one of season one, I had never worked on a TV show, so you can only imagine my
Crash
anxiety,
course. Yeah.
my nervousness, and my stress. And also, you know, when you're working with Port Overstreet, Jessica Collins, Damian Alcázar, Regina Orozco, Vanessa Bauche, and Eugenio Derbez,
Yeah.
and they're your co-workers now. It's pretty intimidating. So once we arrived into the second season, it was so much more easier and much relaxed. Because we already knew each other and we had worked with
Mm,
each other, and it really is a family. Like I know that's very cliche, but we're not lying when we really say, I mean, I feel like you can even tell in our interviews and when we hang out all the time together whenever we can and whatnot, like we really do have this bond. So I think once we got to the second season, even putting the show together was easier because we trust each other so much that we were very unafraid of making choices, you know, and
mm,
collaborate with our writers a little bit more and like come up to them and be like, can I add this? Can we improvise this? You know, can we try this? Like um it was just there was more trust and more of a bond within one another. So which I do think made up for a better season. And I think audiences are gonna even love the season more than they did the first because you can really see how the bond that you see on screen is an extension of what happens behind the camera.
yeah. And would you say that because everyone got to know each other so well in season one, especially like with the writers and the creators of the show and the crew, did they start to implement things that they learned about you into season two?
Yes. Literally, it's so funny because Gabi Milla, who plays Isabel, who's our new character this season,
Mm,
she was like, "You guys are aware that like the writers are like being your psychoanalyzing you right now, like psychologically analyzing you right now. Like
uh,
you guys, so much of what your characters are becoming is so much of who you are as
yeah.
people." And I mean, you saw on the trailer, the Mexican jumped out. You saw on the trailer, you saw on the trailer that, you know, I get to dance a little bit on this season. So it's really cool because the writers and the producers are getting to know us better and better as the days go by. And they use more of our special skills in what they write and they understand our comedy better. You know, they said it best, like when they were writing the first season, they didn't know who they were writing for. And now that they
Yeah.
have these characters and voices in mind and this, you know, visuals, is so much more easy. And you can tell that their writing is being catered to every single actor on the show. It's very
Mm,
special. We feel very blessed about that.
yeah. I just love hearing about these very collaborative experiences because I feel like a lot of times um, you hear stories of actors. Of course, they say this like years later because they don't want to like burn bridges early on. But you know, 20 years later in their memoir, they'll say, "Oh, I worked with, or in this project, I tried giving ideas, and they said like stick to acting, let the writers do their job." But hearing how collaborative of a process it was, how much they're taking from real life to put it into the show, it's like playing to your strengths to make you a better actor, to make the show better. And it's just it's always wonderful to hear that because I feel like in the past you don't always get those experiences.
Yeah, I mean, and they've been doing that since day one. I mean, for instance, Camila's character Julia wasn't supposed to be Colombian, but because they cast Camila, they made the character Colombian and
Mm,
kind of changed her storyline and her relationship with Mexico and Las Colinas. It was the same thing with Hector the Protector. The character wasn't supposed to be from Spain, but because Rafael Cebrián is playing him, they made the character Spain, which
mm,
completely added a whole new layer to it. So yeah, they're being very loving in that sense towards us. Like they take the
mm.
things that makes us best and they add them into the show, which, as Latinos and Latines, like we're very blessed that they want to portray us in these beautiful ways.
Yeah. And speaking on that, so of course the show has been praised for the positive representation that it brings to the screen, because sadly still to this day, like I'll see a trailer for a new movie and I'm like, another show about a drug lord or some
Yeah,
violent person in Latin history. I'm like, we can't do a show or a movie about a successful politician, a
I know.
musician, like just so many different things. But
Let's
what
just
can
do
you,
AOC's biopic.
right? There's so much left to do. Like this needs to be like
I
an ongoing
know.
series.
I know. True. True.
But being part of that very positive and just like again feel good, heartwarming representation, what has that experience been like? What's been the response that you've like heard from other people?
Some of the sweetest messages that I received since the show came out not that long ago has been I've never seen myself on screen, and thanks to you guys, I finally am. And that's so special because when I was going to school for theater, trying to get my acting degree, the future felt so like my career, sorry, felt so far away because there wasn't anything that looked like me on screen, or in media, even in theater. Like there wasn't much. And the few things that there were these dark things that if I'm being honest, I have not much interest to be part of because I'm just tired of those narratives. Like I'm not someone who wants to add up onto that narrative and that message. So it's very special to see that the hope that we didn't have when we were trying to make it in this industry, we're providing it for other people nowadays.
Mm,
I'm so excited for all the Latina kids who are gonna watch themselves on screen while watching the show and in such a beautiful way. And to see such like all of these Latinas in the show be so confident and loving about who they are
mm,
and passing on that message to kids, to wear our Latina pride flag, sorry, super high. Like it's just so exciting, and I feel blessed and grateful to be part of this movement that we're trying to keep pushing forward.
yeah, it's always wonderful to see how much more sincere representation has become.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like I'm almost 30, so I've grown up sort of like in the eras of like peak TV when it comes to representation. I feel like for me growing up, the only Latinos I had on TV was on the George Lopez show
Yeah.
and the Brothers Garcia. It was literally like two shows. There was another show called Taina that didn't last very long, sadly, that I really loved. But like now it's like you have shows like Acapulco, you have all of these shows on Netflix, like some, most of them aren't on the air anymore, but you had like One Day at a Time, Gentefied, just the Gordita Chronicles, which was a wonderful show that I'm so
Oh
mad
my
isn't
God.
around
Don't even
anymore.
get me
But
started on the Gordita Chronicles because I will riot.
we'll be here for an hour.
Yes.
But we've talked just because Wafi Media and our podcast is all about showcasing that Latin excellence. So I'm also curious, like, who was a role model or an inspiration for you growing up within the Latin community?
I mean, I was very blessed to grow up in Mexico, so I did have a lot of people to look up to, but one woman in specific, I don't know if a lot of people like Latinas in the US will recognize her. My hope is that they do. Tatiana, la reina de los niños. I don't know if you know who that is. Is this woman?
Vaguely, yeah, yeah, yeah.
She wears a star on her torso, and like her symbol are stars, and she writes music for kids. To this day, she's like super relevant and amazing. And I mean, she's the reason why I wanted to become a performer. And she also has a really outstanding life story of a woman who suffered violence at home, and she had to be this superstar on TV and screen, but then behind the cameras, her life was a mess, and how she like escape her husband, and like it's
Mm,
an insane story. Like she's so inspiring. So I would say her. Um, and then as an immigrant, you know, now that I moved to the States, I mean, I've honestly had the pleasure of working with the people who inspire me the most, like Eugenio Derbez and Diego Boneta, like literally people who started in Mexico and make a huge name for themselves and then moved to the US, started all over, and are also making a name for themselves. You
Yeah.
know, I can only hope to do that. So Jaime Camil is another one that, oh my God, I love him so much. I was recently nominated for an Imagen Award for Best Supporting Actor, and he was also nominated in the same category. And I was like, how is this possible? Like, I've looked up to this man my whole life because he's so funny and he can do it all. And he can sing, he can dance, he can act, he can everything. And now I'm nominated alongside him. Like, it was unbelievable. He's someone that I would love to work with at some point.
And just knowing, like you mentioned, the Imagen Awards this year was like crazy star-studded. Like some people from like all of my favorite shows were there. Like Love Victor
Yeah.
remains one of my favorite shows, and seeing that, all of these wonderful shows are getting recognized. I wish that they would get recognized in the mainstream award shows, but we won't talk
I
about.
know.
I'm part of the Critics Choice Association, so I always like try and pitch ideas that maybe people, because when they're doing all of these shows, they're taking an entire year's worth of television into consideration. So it's like, I'm not gonna mention the ones everyone else is gonna mention. Let me throw in some other names, and people are like, "Oh yeah, I loved that performance, or I loved that show." Like, with Acapulco, I was like, "Best foreign language series, people, come on, let's not do all Netflix. Like, let's not just do like the ones that are like have like recency
Mhm.
bias. Like, oh, this is the one that just came out last month, and it's great. It's like, cool. About this one that came out last year, that was like also amazing. Like, let's vary the categories here. Because with the Critics Choice last year, it was a Squid Game, swept like
I
for
know.
foreign language. It's like, well, let's throw in some names at least to like, sure, we know Squid Game might win because everyone was obsessed with that show. I still haven't watched it. Don't judge me. Um,
I
if
haven't
if
watched
it's
it just because
mainstream,
I
I'm
heard that
like,
it's
let
really
me,
bloody, so I get it. I don't like
yeah.
watching bloody stuff.
But just seeing all of the wonderful representation, because I feel like maybe 10 years ago, a show like the Imagen Awards would have to really dig deep to find people to nominate. But now there's such a wonderful variety. It's like, can we make more categories to include everyone? Because you almost feel bad excluding people.
Honestly, I mean, it was wonderful to be in the same room as so many Latina creators, you know what I mean, and
Mhm.
fellow actors and whatnot. Like, I was 2 feet away from Justina Machado from One Day at a Time.
Yeah.
I did not say hi to her because I was too starstruck, but like, I love her with my whole heart. I I couldn't. It's overwhelming. It's
Yeah.
overwhelming to look around and see a room of people who are fighting the same fight that you are and are doing it so wonderfully, and so
Mhm.
beautifully. And it was certainly one of the best experiences I've had working in this industry and in my career. I was so blessed to be nominated, to be invited, and just to be around this wonderful community that really is interested on shining a positive light in all of us.
And so before we go, I don't want to take up too much time. For any of our young actors or young artists out there, you've had such a great career so far. Like Acapulco is your first, like you said, your first TV show, and we're now in
Mhm.
season 2. You have another film coming up that we'll talk about in our other interview.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you would share for any young actors listening?
Yes. This took me a little bit to learn, but it's very important. Be yourself. I
Yeah.
know that some of us who want to belong in this industry are often trying to fit into the mold of what we're told we're supposed to look like, be like, act like, talk like, etc., etc. What I've noticed takes people the farthest is embracing who they are, loving themselves, and present that to the world. Don't be afraid of showcasing your natural beauty, quote unquote. I feel like, yes, we're actors and we're portraying parts and whatnot, but I feel like in this industry, what makes the biggest impact is who we are as people. When we're meeting producers and casting directors and whatnot, what really help us shine through um is our essence. So don't ignore your essence. Don't Don't be ashamed of it. Embrace it, love it, present it to the world. What makes you different is what makes you special. Trust me.
Awesome. Well, Fernando, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. If anyone wants to find you on Instagram, where can they give you a follow?
Thank you for having me. You can follow me on at Fernando Carsa. That's Carsa. It's like casa with an R in the middle.
And folks, of course, you can give us a follow at Todo Wafi. You can follow our other podcast at Latin Babbler Show and visit todowafi.com for all of our content. That's Todo Wafi, WAFI.com for all of our content. And of course, don't miss season 2 of Acapulco streaming now on Apple TV Plus with new episodes every Friday. Hasta la próxima.
Yes.
Desde Nicaragua hasta Costa Rica, con esta canción todo el mundo se identifica. Llamen a los chilenos y a los cubanos, llamen a Puerto Rico y a los mexicanos, que ya se armó la rumba. Desde Panamá hasta Ecuador, vámonos a Perú y luego hasta Salvador. Que se escuche en Brasil y Argentina. Yo quiero un grito de mi gente latina y levantaré mi bandera, estando en mi país o estando allá afuera, porque para mí, mira, no existen fronteras. Yo levantaré mi bandera.